His last wish before execution was to see his canine German Shepherd. But what happened changed everything. He sat alone in that cold gray cell, counting down the final hours of his life. But when asked for his last wish, he didn't choose a meal or a final statement. He asked for something no one expected. He wanted to see his loyal canine German Shepherd one last time. What unfolded next wasn't just a farewell. It was a moment so powerful, it changed the course of destiny forever. Before we begin, make sure to subscribe to the channel, like this video, and turn on notifications. This helps us bring more inspiring stories like this directly to you. The heavy metal door creaked open, and for a brief second, the scent of fresh air pushed through the stale, lifeless air of the prison block. Sergeant Logan Barrett sat motionless on the edge of his cot, his broad shoulders slumped under the weight of 100 regrets. The years had been hard, and the last few days had been unbearable. His execution was scheduled for the next morning at dawn. Yet through it all, his mind wasn't on the cold fate awaiting him, but on a pair of amber eyes he hadn't seen in nearly 3 years. Axel, his canine partner. They had served side by side in some of the most dangerous operations during Logan's time in the military police. Axel wasn't just a dog. He was a brother in arms, a silent guardian who had once leapt into gunfire to protect Logan without hesitation. But after a botched mission overseas that resulted in the loss of civilian lives, Logan had been dishonorably discharged and later imprisoned for a crime he swore he didn't commit. Through all the court trials and media storms, Axel had disappeared from his life. And now, with just hours left, Logan's final request echoed through the halls of bureaucracy. He wanted to see his dog one last time. But what no one knew was that this request had set into motion a chain of events no one could have predicted. Outside the prison, a black SUV pulled up under the cover of night. Inside, a younger officer, Captain Drew Marshall, sat nervously gripping the steering wheel. Beside him, Axel sat perfectly still, his aging body showing signs of the years gone by, but his sharp eyes still carried that unmistakable fire. When Drew opened the door, Axel hesitated only for a moment before stepping down onto the cold pavement. Despite the years apart, it was as if the dog knew exactly where he was headed and who he was about to see. Inside the prison, the guards were divided. Some argued that granting Logan's wish was unnecessary. Others believed it was a matter of simple human decency. But none of them understood the depth of the bond between a handler and his canine. That kind of loyalty didn't disappear with time or disgrace. As Axel was led through the narrow corridors, prisoners who had spent years hardened by hate and regret stood silently at the bars, their eyes following the noble dog. It was as if they felt the gravity of the moment, something pure and unbreakable walking among them in a place built on despair. Finally, the guard opened Logan's cell. For a second, Logan couldn't breathe. He rose slowly, his knees weak from days without proper rest. And there he was, Axel. The old German Shepherd stood at the entrance, his head tilted slightly, eyes locked onto the man he hadn't seen in so long. "Axel!" Logan's voice broke, his hands trembling as he knelt. Without hesitation, Axel moved forward, resting his head against Logan's chest. The man who had faced death without flinching now sobbed openly, burying his face in the thick, familiar fur of his loyal friend. But what happened next stunned everyone. Axel suddenly pulled back, his body tense, eyes darting toward the hallway. Moments later, chaos erupted. An urgent call echoed through the prison. There was a last-minute stay of execution. New evidence had surfaced, exonerating Logan of the crime he was about to die for. And it all started because of Axel. In the coming chapters, you'll discover how this incredible dog didn't just fulfill his master's final wish, he changed his fate entirely. The prison corridors were alive with the sound of rushed footsteps and frantic voices. Phones rang off the hook in the warden's office, and guards who had long grown numb to the finality of death row found themselves caught in a whirlwind of confusion and disbelief. Inside his cell, Logan remained on the floor, one arm wrapped tightly around Axel, the other trembling as he wiped his tear-streaked face. His mind couldn't process what he had just heard. A stay of execution. New evidence? For 3 long years, he had begged for someone to believe him, to look deeper, to see that he was a scapegoat for a mission gone horribly wrong. And now, in the final hours of his life, a miracle had arrived. But Logan didn't believe in miracles. Not until that moment. Captain Drew Marshall appeared at the door, his face pale, his eyes wide with disbelief. "Sergeant Barrett." His voice cracked under the weight of the moment. "You're not dying today." Logan's chest heaved, his heartbeat pounding so loud it drowned out the sounds around him. He gripped Axel's fur tighter, feeling the steady rhythm of the old dog's heartbeat against his arm. It was real. All of it was real. How did this happen? Logan managed to ask, his voice hoarse from days of silence and nights of despair. Drew crouched by the cell door, glancing down at Axel, who seemed almost calm, as if he had known this moment was coming. "The FBI just released a statement. They found classified footage from that mission, hidden files that prove you followed orders to the letter. The civilians, their deaths weren't your fault. You were set up." Logan's jaw tightened. His eyes burned with the fire of a man betrayed and broken, but not defeated. 3 years, he whispered. 3 years I rotted in this cell for something I didn't do. Axel let out a low whine, resting his head on Logan's lap, as if to say, "It's over now. You're free." But freedom didn't come easily. The process of overturning his sentence would take time. For now, Logan was simply a man alive against all odds. His name still tarnished, his future uncertain. But in that moment, none of it mattered. All that mattered was the warmth of his canine partner beside him, the living proof that loyalty never fades. Even when the world turns its back on you. As the night wore on, Logan sat awake. Axel curled up at his side on the thin prison mattress. In the dim glow of the hallway light, memories came flooding back. Missions in the desert heat, nights spent camped out under the stars, Axel alert and protective at his side. He remembered the moment Axel saved his life, lunging at a hidden assailant in a bombed-out village, taking a knife meant for Logan. That scar, Logan knew, still lay hidden beneath Axel's thick fur. And yet, despite all they'd survived together, it was this moment, this impossible reunion, that felt like the greatest victory of all. "Hey, buddy," Logan whispered, running his fingers gently through Axel's fur. "Looks like you still had one mission left in you, huh?" Axel gave a soft, tired sigh and leaned closer, his body relaxing completely against the man who had once saved his life, and whose life he had just saved in return. In the days ahead, there would be hearings, media storms, and the long fight to clear Logan's name. But for now, in the quiet darkness of that cell, surrounded by concrete and steel, a man and his loyal K9 found a peace neither of them thought they'd ever see again. And neither of them knew yet. The biggest revelation was still to come. Morning sunlight pierced through the narrow slit of a window high above the prison wall, casting a faint golden beam onto Logan's weary face. For the first time in years, the light felt different, warmer, almost forgiving. He sat on the cot, his fingers still resting in Axel's fur, unable to sleep despite the exhaustion. How could he? Just hours ago, he was a man condemned to die. Now, against every odd, he was alive. And the world outside that concrete tomb didn't seem so unreachable anymore. But with that new dawn came the harsh reality. What now? The cell door opened with a loud, metallic clank. Warden Samuel Briggs, A man Logan had grown to despise for his cold indifference stood there. But today, his expression wasn't one of authority. It was something closer to regret. "Sergeant Barrett," the warden began, clearing his throat as if swallowing his pride. "You're being transferred. The governor's office personally requested it. You'll be moved to a holding facility in D.C. until the courts finalize your release." Logan stood, his body stiff from the restless night. "And what about Axel?" he asked immediately, his eyes narrowing. The warden sighed. "Technically, he's government property. But after everything, there are people making arrangements. The governor himself is reviewing the case. Until then, he stays with you." Logan nodded, his jaw clenched. He wasn't about to be separated from Axel again. Not now. Not ever. Within the hour, Logan found himself shackled once more, but this time, there was a faint sense of dignity in the process. No more execution chamber, no more final goodbyes, just the long ride toward what he prayed would be justice. In the back of the secure transport van, Logan sat quietly while Axel lay at his feet. Occasionally, Axel lifted his head, resting his chin on Logan's knee, his amber eyes filled with a wisdom only time and hardship could bring. Captain Drew Marshall rode up front, his voice low as he spoke on a secure line. Logan caught fragments of the conversation. "Yes, sir. New files from the Department of Defense. Special operations cover-up. Classified orders never authorized." Logan closed his eyes, his fists clenched. The memories flooded back again. That mission, Operation Iron Veil. Supposedly a simple extraction in a Middle Eastern conflict zone. But things had gone wrong the moment they touched down. Intel was bad. The target was already dead. And in the confusion, civilians were caught in the crossfire. Logan had tried to pull his men out, ordered a ceasefire. But by then, the damage was done. And when the political fallout hit, someone had to take the fall. That someone was him. But now, it seemed the truth was finally clawing its way to the surface. When they arrived at the D.C. holding facility, it wasn't the cold, impersonal welcome Logan expected. A representative from the governor's office was already there. A sharply dressed woman named Evelyn Pierce. She greeted him with a firm handshake and a look of genuine compassion in her eyes. "Sergeant Barrett, on behalf of the state, I want to personally apologize for what you've endured," she said. "The evidence clearing your name is overwhelming. This ordeal should never have happened." Logan's voice was low and steady. "I don't need apologies, ma'am. I need my life back, and I need my partner to stay with me." She smiled gently. "That's why I'm here. The governor is pushing for Axel to be permanently retired from service and placed in your custody. Officially. He's earned his peace, and so have you." Logan felt a lump form in his throat. He crouched down beside Axel, who perked up his ears as if sensing that the worst was behind them. "Did you hear that, boy?" Logan whispered, scratching behind his ears. "We're going home." But just as that fragile hope settled over him, Evelyn Pierce delivered one more piece of news that left him frozen. "There's something else, Sergeant. During the investigation, the Department of Defense uncovered a sealed letter. It's addressed to you, from your commanding officer, dated the day before that mission." Logan's heart stopped. His commanding officer, Colonel Vance, believed to have died during that mission, had left something for him? Evelyn pulled a weathered envelope from her briefcase and handed it to him. Logan stared at the faded writing, his name scrawled across it in a familiar, shaky hand. What secrets did this letter hold? And how could words written 3 years ago possibly explain everything that had happened? With trembling hands, Logan broke the seal, completely unaware that what he was about to read would change everything he thought he knew about his mission, his imprisonment, and his future. The envelope felt heavier than it should have. Logan's fingers hesitated before sliding the aged letter free. For 3 long years. He'd lived with the bitter taste of betrayal, his name dragged through the mud, his freedom stolen. But as his eyes scanned the opening line, his heart nearly stopped. Logan, if you were reading this, it means I didn't make it out alive. And worse, it means they've come for you instead of the ones truly responsible. The handwriting was unmistakable. Colonel Nathan Vance, a man known for his unshakable sense of duty and integrity. Logan could still remember the last words the colonel spoke before the mission went dark. Trust no one but your instincts, Sergeant, and keep Axel close. Logan swallowed hard and continued reading. There's a truth buried under the lies of Operation Iron Veil, and I couldn't say it aloud without risking more lives. That mission wasn't about extraction. It was about eliminating witnesses. Innocent witnesses who knew too much about illegal arms deals conducted under the guise of humanitarian aid. Our orders weren't botched. They were intentional. I refused to comply. That's why I didn't make it. And I knew they'd need a scapegoat to cover their tracks. That scapegoat was you. Logan's vision blurred with tears of anger and grief. His fists clenched the paper so tightly it crumpled under his grip. But there's more, Logan. I left behind evidence, real evidence. Coordinates to a hidden storage unit where the classified files and recordings are kept. They're in Axel's chip, hidden beneath his standard ID data. You and Axel were always inseparable. I knew if anyone would make it through this, it'd be the two of you. Trust him. And if by some miracle you're free, finish what I couldn't. The letter ended abruptly. Logan sat back heavily against the cold wall, the words echoing in his mind like a gunshot. All these years, the truth had literally been right there, carried faithfully by Axel the entire time. Axel, Logan whispered, reaching for the dog's collar. His hands worked quickly, his military training taking over. Hidden beneath the regular ID chip, embedded deeper in the casing, he found it. A microdata chip smaller than a grain of rice. His heart pounded in his chest as he stood, his legs almost giving out under the weight of what he held in his hand. This chip wasn't just data, it was salvation. Proof that his life had been destroyed to cover up crimes at the highest level. Evelyn Pierce, who had quietly stepped back during the emotional moment, now approached carefully. Sergeant, is that Logan nodded. It's everything. Colonel Vance left it hidden in Axel's chip. The files they need to clear my name, and probably bring down some very powerful people. She reached for her phone. I'll get this into the right hands immediately. But Logan shook his head. His eyes, cold and focused now, locked on hers. No, I'll deliver it myself. I've waited 3 years for this moment. I'm not letting this out of my sight. Evelyn paused, then gave a single, solemn nod. Then let's move. I'll arrange secure transport to the Federal Investigation Center. But Sergeant, whoever orchestrated this, they're not going to let you walk in there without a fight. You understand what you're up against? Logan glanced down at Axel, who sat at his side like a silent sentinel, his sharp eyes alert and ready. I've faced worse, Logan muttered. And this time, I'm not alone. By nightfall, the transport vehicle was ready. Logan sat in the back again, but this time his hands weren't bound. Instead, he held the tiny chip between his fingers like it was a key to his very life. Axel sat upright beside him, his ears perked, every muscle tense. They were just an hour from DC when the first sign of trouble appeared. A dark SUV tailing close behind, its windows heavily tinted. Then another joined from the side road. Logan's instincts kicked in immediately. We've got company, he warned the driver, his voice calm but firm. Evelyn turned in her seat, her face pale. They're already trying to intercept us. Logan gave Axel a quick pat on the side. Ready for one last mission, boy? Axel growled low in his throat, his eyes locked on the approaching threat. This wasn't over. not yet. And as the city skyline came into view, Logan knew either they would make it to the federal building with the truth, or they'd go down fighting for it. The black SUVs closed in fast, their engines roaring as they flanked both sides of the government transport. Logan's heart pounded against his ribs, but his mind was already calculating options, his years of tactical training kicking in with razor-sharp precision. This wasn't a random threat. It was a coordinated hit. Someone out there was desperate to keep the truth buried. "Get us off this highway," Logan shouted to the driver. "Now!" The young agent behind the wheel swerved hard, exiting onto a narrow service road that cut through an industrial district. The sudden move gave them a few precious seconds of distance, but the SUVs adjusted quickly, their tires screeching as they followed. In the back seat, Logan reached down, checking Axel's collar. His loyal partner sat tense but unshaken, his keen eyes locked on the windows as if he already understood the stakes. Logan gave his shoulder a firm pat. "Stay with me, buddy. No matter what happens, we finish this together." Evelyn Pierce clutched the headrest in front of her, her face pale but her voice steady. "We won't outrun them for long. They'll force us off the road." Logan's eyes darted to the narrow alleyways flashing by. "They don't have to catch us. Just slow us down long enough to take that chip." His fingers brushed the small device hidden in the inner pocket of his prison-issued jacket. That tiny piece of data held everything: his freedom, the exposure of a massive government conspiracy, and the justice he'd waited years to see. Suddenly, one of the SUVs pulled ahead, attempting to cut them off. Logan's gut tightened. Without thinking, he reached forward, grabbing the wheel and yanking it hard to the left. "Take the alley!" he barked. The transport vehicle bounced violently as they veered off the main road into a tight, debris-filled alleyway. Trash cans toppled. Sparks flew as the side mirrors scraped against the brick walls. The larger SUVs hesitated, too wide to follow directly. "They can't follow us through here," the driver gasped. Logan wasn't so sure. His eyes darted to the rear window. One of the SUVs had stopped parallel to the alley, and men were already stepping out, armed and moving fast. "We've got boots on the ground," Logan warned. He turned to Axel. "You ready for this, old boy?" Axel's growl was low and deep, his body tense, but poised like a coiled spring. Logan knew that sound well. It was the same warning growl he used during live combat missions, right before he lunged into action. As the vehicle screeched to a stop near an old abandoned warehouse, Logan made his decision. He wasn't going to sit and wait for the enemy to corner them. "Out, now," he ordered, throwing open the door. Evelyn and the driver scrambled out, taking cover behind the vehicle. Logan crouched low, Axel at his side, moving with the practiced coordination of a soldier and his most trusted partner. Gunfire erupted behind them, the sharp cracks of suppressed rifles echoing down the alley. Bullets ricocheted off the concrete walls, and the air filled with the acrid scent of gunpowder. Logan darted toward the warehouse, signaling for Evelyn and the driver to follow. Inside, the massive space was a skeleton of rusted metal beams and broken glass. Perfect cover, and perfect for an ambush. They took refuge behind a stack of old pallets as Logan assessed the situation. "We're boxed in," Evelyn said through clenched teeth. "What's the plan, Sergeant?" Logan glanced at Axel, then at the faint glint of the chip still tucked safely in his jacket. "The plan is simple. We get this chip to the federal building, or die trying." Evelyn swallowed hard, nodding. "Understood." But before Logan could respond, Axel suddenly stiffened, his ears snapping forward. He let out a low, warning growl, his nose pointed toward the eastern entrance of the warehouse. "They're coming in," Logan whispered. He reached down and unfastened Axel's lead, locking eyes with his partner. "One last mission, boy. Just like old times." Axel didn't hesitate. With practiced precision, He moved into the shadows, circling behind the intruders. Logan adjusted his stance, ready for the fight that was coming. For years they had fought side by side against enemies on foreign soil. Now, in a dark, forgotten corner of his own country, they were about to fight for the one thing that had always been just out of reach: justice. And as the enemy closed in, Logan realized that this wasn't just a battle for his life. It was a battle for every man who had been silenced, for every truth that had been buried. And with Axel by his side, he wasn't about to lose. The warehouse fell into a deadly silence, the kind that made every creak of rusted metal and every shattered piece of glass beneath a boot sound like a gunshot. Logan crouched behind the pallets, his pulse steady despite the chaos outside. Years of military discipline had trained him for moments exactly like this, but nothing compared to the presence of Axel at his side, moving like a shadow in the darkness. Evelyn Pierce pressed her back against the cold concrete wall, her breath shallow, eyes darting toward Logan. "They're closing in," she whispered. Logan nodded slowly, his mind racing through every tactical scenario. There were at least 6 of them, heavily armed and clearly trained. But they made one critical mistake. They underestimated the loyalty and lethal precision of a K9 warrior. A faint rustle echoed from the east entrance. Logan's eyes flicked in that direction just as 2 men crept through the shadows, weapons raised. He held up a silent fist, signaling Evelyn and the young agent to hold their positions. Then, like a phantom cutting through the darkness, Axel moved. The old German Shepherd had launched from behind a stack of broken crates, his powerful body a blur of muscle and precision. He struck the lead attacker with such force that the man crashed to the ground, his rifle skidding across the concrete. Axel didn't stop there. He spun on his haunches and lunged for the second man, sinking his powerful jaws into the attacker's arm and dragging him down with a vicious growl that echoed through the empty warehouse. "Go, Axel!" Logan commanded, rising from his position and charging forward. Gunfire erupted again, bullets striking the metal beams around them, sending sparks flying. Logan ducked low, moving fast, grabbing the fallen rifle and returning fire with deadly accuracy. His shots forced the remaining attackers to fall back toward the western exit. "Evelyn, move!" Logan shouted, covering her as she sprinted across the open floor toward a stack of rusted shipping containers near the emergency exit. Axel returned to Logan's side, his chest heaving, but his eyes focused and ready for more. Despite his age, the years of training kicked in as if no time had passed. He stood alert, his ears perked, scanning the warehouse for any remaining threats. "They're falling back," Evelyn called from across the warehouse, her voice tight but hopeful. Logan took a deep breath, his eyes narrowing. "They're not retreating. They're regrouping." And just as the words left his mouth, a deafening explosion rocked the far side of the building. Smoke and fire burst through the northern wall, and the roof groaned as if it might collapse at any second. "They're trying to bring the whole place down," Evelyn yelled, covering her face as debris rained from above. Logan grabbed Axel's collar and pulled him close. "We're not dying here," he muttered. With practiced ease, he guided Evelyn and the young agent toward the emergency exit. Flames licked at the walls, thick smoke choking the air. They burst through the side door just as another explosion shook the ground beneath them. Outside, the night air was thick with smoke, but it was breathable, alive. And through the haze, Logan spotted it, the final destination. Just beyond the industrial lot, the glow of the federal building's rooftop lights broke through the darkness. "We're close," Logan gasped, his voice raw from the smoke. "We finish this now." With the last of his strength, Logan pushed forward, Axel at his side, Evelyn and the young agent following close behind. Every muscle in his body screamed with exhaustion, but he didn't stop. not when the truth was within reach. And then, as they approached the main street, two unmarked black sedans screeched to a halt in front of them, their doors flying open. But this time, it wasn't enemy agents stepping out. It was a team of federal marshals in tactical gear, weapons drawn. "Stand down!" one of them shouted. "Sergeant Logan Barrett, we've been ordered to escort you to federal protection immediately." Logan fell to his knees, relief crashing over him like a tidal wave. Axel pressed his body against Logan's side, his breathing heavy but his eyes calm. They had made it. As the marshals secured the perimeter, Evelyn approached Logan and knelt beside him. "You did it," she whispered. "It's over." Logan placed his hand gently on Axel's head, his voice low and emotional. "It's not over. Not until the truth is made public. Not until the people responsible pay for what they've done." And as the sun began to rise on the horizon, painting the sky in streaks of gold and crimson, Logan stood tall once more. This time, not as a condemned man, but as a soldier who had survived the impossible. With Axel by his side, he walked toward the federal building, the microchip still clutched tightly in his hand. Logan stood at the entrance of the Federal Investigation Center, the rising sun casting long shadows across the marble steps. His clothes were torn, his face smeared with soot and blood, but his grip on the microchip remained unshaken. Beside him, Axel sat tall despite his own exhaustion, his head high and his chest still puffed out with the dignity of a soldier who had completed his mission. The glass doors of the building swung open, and a team of senior officials and federal agents emerged. At their center was Director Raymond Wells, a man known for his no-nonsense approach to justice. His eyes settled on Logan, and for a brief moment, the hardened lines of his face softened with respect. "Sergeant Barrett," the director said, his voice carrying the weight of authority, "I believe you have something that belongs to us, and something the world needs to see." Logan handed over the tiny chip, his fingers reluctant to let it go. "This doesn't just clear my name, sir. It exposes everything. The illegal arms deals, the mission that went wrong by design, the lives lost, all of it. I want every name responsible brought to justice. No negotiations, no cover-ups." Director Wells nodded solemnly. "That's exactly what we intend to do." Within hours, the evidence recovered from the chip made its way into the hands of the nation's top investigators. News stations interrupted their regular programming with breaking headlines. "Massive government conspiracy uncovered. Whistleblower hero exonerated." For the first time in years, Logan's name was no longer associated with disgrace. It was being spoken with honor. Headlines across the country read, "The soldier they tried to silence," and "The K9 that saved his master's life and his honor." As the nation absorbed the shocking revelations, Logan found himself sitting quietly on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial later that evening. The chaos was behind him now, but the weight of it all remained heavy on his shoulders. Axel lay at his feet, his eyes closed, but his ears still twitching at every distant sound. Logan ran his fingers through the old shepherd's fur, his mind drifting back over the years they'd spent together. From the scorching deserts overseas to the darkest prison cell, Axel had never left his side. "You did it, buddy," Logan whispered, his voice rough with emotion. "You saved me. Again." A soft voice broke the silence behind him. "Sergeant Barrett?" Logan turned to see Evelyn Pierce standing there, holding a leather folder. She sat down beside him, her eyes tired but filled with a quiet satisfaction. "The president personally signed this an hour ago," she said, handing him the folder. Logan opened it, his hands trembling slightly. Inside was a full and unconditional pardon, along with an official statement clearing his name of all wrongdoing. But beneath that document was something even more important to him. a certificate of retirement for Axel, officially releasing him from government service and placing him permanently under Logan's care. Tears welled in Logan's eyes as he looked down at his loyal companion. "Looks like you're finally getting that peaceful retirement you deserve, old friend." Evelyn smiled softly. "There's something else. The governor's office and several veterans organizations want to honor you both. They're setting up a fund in Axel's name to support retired canines and help them find good homes after service. It's called Axel's Promise." Logan swallowed hard, his heart full. "That's perfect," he whispered. "That's exactly what he'd want." As night fell over Washington, D.C., the city lights flickered on, and for the first time in years, Logan felt something he hadn't dared to hope for: peace. He stood up, stretching his stiff legs, and looked down at Axel. "Come on, partner. Let's go home." Axel rose slowly, his movements stiff but proud. Side by side, they walked down the steps of the memorial, their silhouettes blending into the night. And though their battles were finally over, their bond remained unbreakable, a living testament to loyalty, courage, and a love that defied even the darkest moments of human failure. Before you leave, remember, even in our darkest hours, loyalty and courage can light the way. If this story touched your heart, subscribe to the channel, leave a like, and share it with someone who believes in second chances. Together we can spread messages of hope, justice, and the unbreakable bond between a soldier and his loyal companion. The following weeks passed in a blur of ceremonies, interviews, and moments that felt almost surreal. Logan found himself standing before crowds of people who cheered his name, people who had once believed he was a traitor, but now hailed him as a symbol of resilience and justice. Yet, through every medal placed on his chest and every speech made in his honor, his mind remained anchored to one simple truth: none of this would have been possible without Axel. One afternoon, standing before a gathering of veterans and their families at Arlington National Cemetery, Logan stepped to the podium. His uniform was freshly pressed, the medals on his chest gleaming under the afternoon sun. But his eyes betrayed a deep vulnerability as he glanced down at the faithful German Shepherd lying quietly at his feet. He cleared his throat, his voice raw and sincere. "Ladies and gentlemen, today we honor those who fought, those who sacrificed, and those who stood by us when no one else would. But there's a kind of soldier we often forget. The ones who don't wear a uniform. The ones who can't speak our language, but understand every beat of our hearts. The ones who stand between us and danger without a second thought, and never ask for anything in return." His voice faltered for a moment as he looked down at Axel, the dog's tired eyes looking up at him with nothing but loyalty. "This is my hero, not just for the lives he saved, but for reminding me what true loyalty means. When I lost everything, my freedom, my honor, my hope, he waited for me. And when I thought my life was over, he showed me it wasn't." A hush fell over the crowd, many wiping away tears. Logan took a deep breath. Axel isn't just a canine, he's family. And today I'm proud to announce the launch of Axel's Promise, a foundation dedicated to ensuring that no canine hero is ever forgotten or left behind after their service ends. These dogs give us everything, and it's time we give something back. The audience rose to their feet in a standing ovation as Logan stepped down from the podium, kneeling beside Axel. He pressed his forehead gently against his partner's, his voice a whisper only Axel could hear. "We made it, buddy. You can rest now." But life, as it often does, had one more lesson to teach. Over the coming months, Logan noticed Axel growing weaker. His steps became slower, his breathing heavier after short walks. Despite the best medical care, time was catching up to his loyal companion. Logan knew it was coming, but nothing could have prepared him for the day Axel lay down beneath his favorite tree in Logan's backyard and simply didn't get back up. Logan sat with him for hours, his hand resting on Axel's thick fur, whispering stories of their adventures, reminding him of every battle they had fought together. When Axel took his final breath, the sun was setting, painting the sky in brilliant shades of orange and gold, just like the evening they walked out of that federal building as free men. A quiet funeral was held beneath that tree, the place Axel had loved most. Fellow soldiers, K9 handlers, and community members gathered to pay their respects. A polished plaque was placed at the base of the tree, engraved with simple, powerful words. Axel, a soldier's brother, a nation's hero, forever loyal. Standing there, Logan felt both the deepest sorrow and the greatest peace he had ever known. Axel had lived a life of purpose. He had fulfilled his mission right until his final breath. Days later, Logan visited a local K9 training facility. He didn't go looking for a replacement. There was no replacing Axel. But as he stood watching the young pups in training, a small German shepherd with the same piercing amber eyes ran up to him and sat at his feet. Logan knelt down, his heart aching yet full, and whispered, "You've got big paws to fill, little one, but something tells me you're ready." He adopted the pup that very day, naming him Valor, a name that would carry on Axel's legacy. And so, with a new partner at his side and a heart forever marked by the courage of one extraordinary dog, Logan continued his mission, not as a soldier fighting wars abroad, but as a man committed to protecting the forgotten heroes who had protected him. And every night, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Logan would sit beneath Axel's tree, Valor curled up beside him, and look out at the world with quiet gratitude. Because no matter how dark the road had once been, love and loyalty had lit the way home. If this story moved you, don't forget to subscribe, like this video, and share it with someone who believes in second chances and the incredible bond between humans and their loyal companions. Together, we can keep their stories alive and honor their sacrifices.